Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror science fiction film, Mimic Part 2. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with an old man carrying his luggage in a dark subway tunnel. He hears the train approach him, and he quickly moves to the side to avoid being hit. Afterward, he notices a strange person listening in on him while he's trying to catch his breath. He leaves the subway and navigates the streets of the city while the rain pours heavily on him, leaving him and his luggage drenched. As he calls for a taxi, he once again notices the strange person following him, causing him to panic and run away. The heavy noises of the stranger's footsteps scare the old man, and the person appears right in front of him as a faceless monster called a mimic. The mimic slashes the old man across his chest and flings him to the sidewalk, right before a taxi collides with the mimic, causing a fiery explosion. The authorities arrive a few moments later. A detective enters the scene for investigation. The policemen inform him that the taxi driver crashed into the old man, carrying the luggage filled with dirt. Detective tells the officers that he'd seen incidents like this before, but the officers flip the old man's body over to reveal the face to be completely torn off. They tell him that they have never seen anything like this before. The next morning during a class, a teacher named Remy discusses the life cycle of insects and how ants become the last of their colonies and eventually die off. After her class, she makes her way home. Nearby in the alley, a sewer grate opens, and the mimic comes out, carrying the other luggage of the old man. Back home, Remy sleeps in her room filled with insects and small predators encased inside a glass container. She dreams of nightmarish insects until it is interrupted by a strong gust of wind that blows open her window, causing her to awaken. The next day, she talks a bit with the school janitor, who is fixing a light bulb. They exchange greetings rather than hormones. Afterward, she leaves the school and encounters a former student named Nikki. She notices a scar below his eye, and she asks if his father hit him again. He dodges the question and asks her if she wants to go out on a date. She declines, telling him that she already has a boyfriend. He expresses his disbelief, but Remy quickly leaves. In a nearby alley, one of Remy's students chases an orange cat through a hole. He suddenly hears the screams of the cat, and he notices that the mimic is hiding in the darkness, eating the cat. In the evening, Remy records a message for her answering machine, in which she specifically mentions the name of her stalker and asks him to never call again. Suddenly, she hears a knock on her door. She looks through the peephole and sees her stalker. She opens the door a bit, and the stalker tells her that he just wants to talk. She refuses to talk and closes the door in his face. The stalker kicks down her door, tells her that he is done with her, and tosses the flowers he bought for her on the floor. She takes a photo of her face and sticks the photo on the wall, along with other photos of her reactions every time someone that she dates turns out to be a weirdo. She heads out in the rain and bumps into the mimic, who is wearing a raincoat covering its face. She excuses herself and goes on her way. Unbeknownst to her, her stalker's dead body is hanging on the telephone wires, with his face ripped off. In the evening, she goes on a new date in a fancy restaurant. She discusses her work and her fascination for insects and their habits. Before she leaves to go home, her date asks her if she wants to spend a hormone night with him. She politely declines and heads home. Suddenly, the mimic knocks down the date. He stands up and starts looking for what hit him, but the mimic hits his head one more time, knocking him unconscious. The mimic then drags him off through the many apartments of the city and eventually through the sewers. Near the entrance to her apartment, she meets Detective, who shows her his badge and asks if he can talk to her for a few minutes. She invites him upstairs to her apartment, where he looks through the equipment that she uses for her job. She tells him that she admires the simplicity of insects, unlike the complexity of people. He expresses interest in her work, and she asks Detective what he exactly wanted to ask. He tells her if she knew the old man, who was killed in an accident a few days ago. She reveals to him that she hated the old man because he sold endangered insect species on the black market. But she notes that she simply hates him on a professional level and wouldn't do anything to kill him. Detective writes this down and goes on his way. Outside the apartment, Detective notices a shadow moving above him. He looks up and sees the street lamp. A drop of blood falls on his face, and the body of the stalker falls down on Detective, almost crushing him. Later, Detective brings in Remy and interrogates her. She explains to him that she has nothing to do with the death of her stalker. He tells her about the similarities between the deaths of the old man and her stalker, and how they both got their faces ripped off cleanly. He then tells her that a close friend of hers described her as incapable of maintaining a relationship with someone who isn't an insect. The next day, a colleague tells Detective that the one causing the murders is clearly Remy, but he tells him that she could have possessed the strength to lift her super heavy stalker and place him on top of a lamppost. In school, Remy confronts the principal, who turns out to have told many parents about the current situation that Remy is in with the police. She tells him that she knows that he was the one who gave Detective the statement about how she's unable to maintain a relationship. She says that she will hand over her resignation by the end of the day. Meanwhile, the student from the other day comes back to the hole where he saw the mimic eat the cat. He slowly enters, only to see a hardened mask in the form of a human face. He yells into the darkness, asking if the mimic is hungry and why it was hiding down there. In the evening, the student finds Remy still in the room, looking at the death of the remaining aunt of one of the colonies. The student tells her that he will be picked up by his aunt much later, and Remy tells him that she will bring him home if his aunt doesn't pick him up in a while. On the other side, the janitor arrives near his home, but he makes a detour to the park where he does a pull-up to train his muscles. He struggles to do the pull-up, but after he does, the mimic stabs him and tosses his heavy body before it drags him along like a piece of cake, making his workout meaningless. Detective breaks into Remy's apartment to search for clues. He sees her pet chameleon outside its cage. He stumbles across a wall of photos, unaware that she takes photos of herself and her reaction every time she is saddened. He sees a recent photo with his name as a label, so he takes it and puts it into his back pocket. Detective leaves her apartment and encounters the authorities from the Department of Defense, also conducting their own investigation. They ask him what he was doing inside the apartment, and he in turn asks them if they really have any jurisdiction over the case he's working on. Two crime scene investigators from the Department of Defense suddenly call out that they may have found something interesting, but Detective is asked to leave the premises. After some time, the student's aunt still has not arrived. Remy tells the student that she will be taking him home instead. When they leave the classroom and enter the hallway, they find that it's blocked with a pile of chairs and tables stacked together. Remy calls out to the janitor for help, but instead, the principal finds them and insists that he can bring down all the chairs and tables himself with his mighty muscles. Suddenly, the mimic comes from above and drags the muscular principal away before stabbing him multiple times and ending his muscle-flexing life. Remy leads the student to a room where they find her former student Nikki inside. He tells them that he got into the room through the window. Remy tells them to keep the door locked while she takes out her camera, trying to take a picture of the mimic chasing them. She aims her camera up from the window, but the mimic comes for her. She manages to snap a picture before she has to run away with both of the boys. Detective follows the people from the Department of Defense as they investigate a substance they found in the hallway. They aim their blue light at the ceiling, only to find long strikes of the white substance. Meanwhile, Remy and the two boys find their way to a safe place. Nikki asks Remy what the creature chasing them was. She reveals to them that not long ago, when a disease spread from cockroaches was killing children, she created a new breed of insect that would make the cockroaches die out. But not all of them did. Some of them mutated like how other insects would evolve over time to act and look like their predators, only that the cockroaches evolved to mimic their only real predator, which is humans. Hence why the creature is called a mimic. The student observes from the photo that Remy took of the mimic, finding it looks a bit like the janitor. But Remy tells them that it is not possible for them to mimic specific faces. Detective drives along the freeway, still bothered by the discovery of the Department of Defense. He struggles to drive properly and swerves as he changes lanes. He gives himself a slap in the face to keep his composure. Remy comforts the student and tells him that the mimic won't hurt them because insects are predictable. He asks her if it won't hurt them, why it did kill the principal. She tells him that bees only attack when you disturb their nest, and that the principal might have done something to disturb the mimic. Nikki rummages through the room and discovers a luggage case belonging to the old man from earlier. Nikki opens it, and cockroaches emerge from the suitcase. They try their hardest to seal the suitcase tight, but almost all of the cockroaches escape, and Nikki ends up stepping on a few. Detective arrives at the school, but finds the front door locked. Remy comes up with a plan and tells the boys that the mimic won't hurt them until it discovers what they have done to the cockroaches, which would give them enough time to find the exit. By not running and taking advantage of the fact that cockroaches hate the light, they would be able to escape. Nikki objects to the plan and suggests that they instead grab a few metal pipes and kill the mimic, but Remy puts an end to his plan. Remy warns them about the habits of cockroaches one more time before opening the door and venturing through a tunnel. Nikki runs into a few items, which creates a lot of noise, but it doesn't seem to have alerted the mimic. Remy uses her camera with the flash before they enter a new area to scare the mimic. The mimic finally finds them and chases them through hallways, breaking the lights above. They find themselves near the blocked hallway and crawl through, narrowly avoiding death. The mimic catches up to Remy, but the mimic does not harm her, and instead offers her a pizza, possibly wanting to ask her to do it a mating favor. Suddenly, Detective appears and shoots the mimic, covering himself with a white substance from the mimic's blood. Remy leads everyone to an office, where they call the Center for Disease Control and inform them about the mimic's existence. Detective grabs a metal pipe and tells them that he will handle the mimic, but Remy tells him that it won't make a dent in it. The Department of Defense took the situation into its own hands before the CDC could respond. 2 armored trucks make their way to the school, and the commanding officer tells the CDC that they will take care of the problem. Remy observes that the mimic is currently hiding within the walls, possibly looking for her because it is attracted to her pheromones and possibly hormones. Nikki suggests a plan using thumbtacks to distract the mimic so as to give Detective and the student enough time to leave the school. Remy takes off her jacket and hormone-filled pants, while Nikki nails them to the wall with thumbtacks to hopefully keep the mimic focused on the office. Suddenly, a call comes to the office, which angers the mimic. The Department of Defense arrives just in time for Detective and the student to make it to the exit. He tells them to save Remy and Nikki, but they tell him that they rang the office and no one answered. Detective rushes inside, but the mimic has stabbed Remy because the scent of Nikki has now covered her, and the mimic has the instinct to eliminate its hormone rival. Nikki runs away as Detective manages to shoot the mimic in the head, although it still stands back up and drags her body away. Detective retrieves her sexy body and they both manage to escape. The Department of Defense manages to track down the location of the mimic, but it turns out the mimic has already morphed into something new, and what they tracked down was only its husk. The movie ends with the revelation that Detective died in the school. The mimic took his handsome face and carried Remy out of the building. Remy brings the student with her as a foster child. When they arrive at the apartment, the mimic knocks at her door with the face of Detective. She uses a pair of shears to cut the mimic's head into onion pieces. She proceeds to crush its body into mashed potato under the weight of her new reinforced door. They feel relief finally, but unbeknownst to them, the larvae of the mimic have already been laid on the ceiling. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.